Abott Point Operations, just a little bit about what we do. We are Australia's most northern coal terminal and operate as part of the Queensland export chain for coal. We've got a small team, 190 people, full-time employees, but supported with an equivalent number in specialist contractor services, so small site. We provide bulk handling services, so from train unloading, stacking, reclaiming, and then ship loading operations. It's 24/7 and 364 days of the year. We started looking at how do we better understand our risk exposure, worked with some really great experts in that field to understand what is our current risk exposure, focused on the things that really mattered around the serious injury and fatality risk. And we looked at what does the data tell us.
Unpacking the data. So some of the data, there's a lot of data, and that we actually use culture data as well as other data sources to kind of triangulate what we're doing. So in terms of learning from unplanned events historically, what we looked at was around 659 incidents over a course of 4 years. So quite a long study in terms of the historical learning, and this was to really inform the strengthening of controls when we get to that next in terms of bow tie analysis. We did a deep dive on 93 of those incidents, and again, we're triangulating data with multiple sources as well, which is not in the scope of the conversation today. So what that translates to is roughly 1 in 6 incidents had a serious injury fatality potential. And so that deservingly drew the attention of the executive team, the SLT, and also then was the spark for their strategy around how do they better enhance critical control effectiveness in the field for their team. A slice of the data, what we're looking at was that there was a prevalence of SIF exposure at working at heights, falling objects, motor vehicles. Motor vehicles itself was actually quite off the radar. One of those things that were not necessarily on the radar of the executive team, and the profile there, you kind of get a sense of as the profile reduces down. So we're starting to use this data to inform, well, what do we need to do in terms of strengthening controls and effectiveness of controls?
We had to address the culture, so we invested in the capability of our leaders, going through redefining role purpose, role clarity, and also rolling out leadership training specifically focused around the management and effective management of critical risk work. We also implemented new safety leading indicators, so shifted the focus from the TRIFR and the LTI frequency rate to more looking at the leading indicators around are our controls in place, are we verifying controls as we've said we and intended and set out to do. We also implemented in-field coaching, and this wasn't just aimed at the leaders of teams doing critical risk work. We also brought along the leaders of teams and support functions that have to support the execution or planning of critical risk work. So that was our finance team, warehouse, my team. And to support all of that, we set up an assurance program. So how do we monitor the quality of the data and keep on top of the KPIs that we'd introduced? So we have some deep dives. Our critical risk owners are using the data, and we also do an annual assurance review to look at what other insights and sort of trends are we missing, but using not only the critical control data, it's our incident data and hazard reporting as well.